So, maybe you can see why I rushed through Judges and Joshua, because these two books, I mean, if you read them quick and just for the story, that's fine. You can enjoy them. But if you look at the actual structure, you can get really depressed. All right, let's look at this. So, what I'm going to try to keep an eye on is the different judges for the different tribes. We did the Song of Deborah, and we said that's a very old song, and I think it is an old song. Probably older than the text here, as songs tend to be. So again, the theme is line chapter 6, Israel did what displeased the Lord, or Yahweh, or God. And then the enemies are the Midianites, chapter 6. That's Sinai. And then he sent a prophet that said that he would drive. This is the message of the prophet, but from what I can see, that prophet's not named. Am I wrong? Line 7, is there a name to this prophet? Huh? Unnamed prophet, first prophet. Really, Moses is a prophet, but he's not really called prophet as such in the book. This, I think, is probably the first prophet mentioned as a prophet. And the message is always the same. My theologian isn't here, but I drove them out before you and gave you the land, but you went astray and you didn't listen to my words. It's always the same message, and I think there's theology here. And so the angel of the Lord, or Yahweh, came. The terebinth is a sort of another kind of, I think it's another shrine, a pagan sort of shrine of some kind. And now Gideon is the hero here. And Gideon's another great warrior. So these are the heroes, but again, you see what he is. Line 15, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh. So again, we have another tribe. My clan is the weakest in Manasseh. And this is a long story. They know a lot about Gideon here. And he calls the men to arms. Here's a story, for instance, there's an altar of Baal, in which Baal is a Canaanite god. Baal means Lord in Canaanite language. It's another sort of honorific title for a pagan deity, I guess you'd say. And once again, bring out your son, for he must die, since he destroyed the altar of Baal. Sort of like the Sodom and Gomorrah story here. And therefore, he was given the name, line 32, Yerubbaal. Yerubbaal, Jerubbaal, Yerubbaal, Yerubbaal. Because Baal pleaded against him, so he has a double name. He has a Baal name and a Hebrew name. So this is quite some good, it's a really long story. It's chapter 7, Gideon is at Ein Herod, which is up there, sort of Galilee. And the Midian was north of him. I don't know if I've told you about this general in the Second World War. His name was Ord Wingate, a British general, youngest major general in the British Army, who had earlier been in Palestine and wanted to lead a Jewish army in the 30s because he was so impressed with what he saw was going on there. And he trained all the future military leaders of Israel. And he would read the Bible to them naked as he sat in his tent. And he had established his camp at En Herod. That's where he established his tent, because he used to read the Bible and he took it seriously. And he was a British, Plymouth Brethren was the group that he was, which are a very fundamentalist, evangelical sort of group from those days. Very, very pious. And he was a wonderful general, really. He died in Burma in a plane crash in the campaign that he was leading, called the Chindan campaign, because they barred him from Palestine and they sent him out to the Far East to fight in that theater of operations. But for him, Gideon was his hero. He was landed in Ethiopia with a small force of guerrillas that the British put in there in 41. And he freed Ethiopia from Italian colonial rule, and he put Haile Selassie up as the emperor or the king again. And the force that he brought down there he called Gideon Force, because it was his theory that small numbers of men, well trained, are better than large numbers. He was really the originator of these, what we now call Green Berets, sort of irregular warfare type people. And he was always looking for people of that kind. And he took his inspiration all here from the story of Gideon here. You know, he attacked at night often, which is what Wingate would do with his raiders in Palestine, attack at night always, because he knew that the people didn't like to fight at night. He trained them to be night fighters and things of that kind. So he took a lot of his inspiration here from the Gideon story here in the Bible. There's one famous story which he always read to his troops, which he loved quite a bit, was when Gideon made his army go down to the river and drink. And the ones who, you know, can you find me that story here? Because I'm not able to pick it out quickly. And who drank from their hands and who knelt down and lapped. The ones, one group he took for his soldiers and the other group he didn't.
7-6.
7-6, thanks. So Gideon took the people down to the water side, and Yahweh said to him, all those who lapped the water with their tongues as dogs, place on one side. Those who kneeled down, I suppose, and cupped the water, I'm not sure if that's what it's meaning here. And all the rest of the people knelt to drink. And he said, take the ones who lapped the water like dogs. In other words, Wingate interpreted that to mean take the guerrilla fighters. Don't take the sort of polite guys who are not, who are worried about their, take the guys who are willing to rough it, basically. Live naturally, live off the land. And this is the story he used to be guided by these stories. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery because he crashed in Burma with an American crew, and they couldn't separate all the bodies, so they buried them all together in a grave in Arlington National Cemetery. Anyway, these are great stories about Gideon. He's one of the great heroes. What tribe is he? What did we say he was? Manasseh, right? I think so. Now there's another individual here. He had a son. He had 70 sons. Look, he had 70 sons, line 31. For he had many wives,